maybe from 18th to first in 4 laps, but you will see great racing. It's been great so far in practice and all that stuff in the bud.
When Dale Earnhardt took his final lap on February 18, 2001, millions believed they'd witnessed just another routine NASCAR collision. But what followed was a tragedy that shook the motorsport world to its core. Beneath the slow-motion replays and bold headlines, chilling details remained hidden until now. From ignored safety warnings to haunting final moments the TV cameras never showed. This isn't just another crash story. So, what really unfolded behind the scenes that day? Stick around as we uncover 8 mind-blowing facts you never knew. February 18th, 2001 was poised to be a turning point in NASCAR history, a new chapter filled with promise and nationwide attention. The 2001 Daytona 500 wasn't just another Sunday race. It was the big one. Fox Sports had just secured a massive broadcasting deal, setting the stage for millions of new fans to embrace stock car racing. The Daytona International Speedway in Florida pulsed with energy. The sun was shining, the stands were overflowing, and the roar of engines filled the air. Terry Bradshaw, the NFL legend, had been invited to serve as Grand Marshal. The night before, Dale Earnhardt, known globally as the Intimidator, gave Bradshaw a heart-stopping ride around the track. At one point, Dale yanked the steering wheel toward the wall, laughing as Bradshaw clung on for dear life. Dale cherished moments like that. He lived for the thrill and the laugh that followed. But few watching knew the battles Dale had fought just to reach this race. The late 1990s had been some of the toughest years of his career. A horrifying crash at Talladega left him with a broken collarbone, while another wreck in Atlanta fractured a neck bone. At times, the pain was so intense he drove one-handed, gripping the wheel with all the strength he had left. In 1999, retirement wasn't just a rumor. It was on his mind. Took the steady words of his friend and team owner, Richard Childress, to pull him back. It wasn't him, Childress would later say. We just weren't giving him fast enough cars. By 2000, Dale had rediscovered his fire. When the green flag dropped that Sunday afternoon, nobody watching could have guessed that NASCAR's most shocking and heartbreaking day was about to unfold. But what overlooked warnings were building up around Dale Earnhardt that day, setting the stage for disaster? Just 2 days before the 2001 Daytona 500, on February 16th at the iconic Daytona International Speedway, Dale Earnhardt sat down for a routine TV interview with former rival and current Fox Sports analyst Darrell Waltrip. Normally cool, distant, and laser-focused before race day, Dale's mood took an unexpected turn. Out of nowhere, he jumped from his chair, arms raised high, shouting with raw emotion, "I'm a lucky man. I've got it all." It wasn't like him to get this sentimental, especially with cameras rolling. For once, he publicly opened up about the happiness he was feeling in life. He spoke glowingly about his marriage, his role as a father, and the incredible performance of his race car that week. He even boasted about how fast and strong the cars were in his racing team's lineup. Friends and colleagues who saw the interview later described it as both inspiring and oddly unsettling, almost like a man unknowingly delivering a final goodbye. Then came the night of February 17th. During what should have been a simple business meeting with his friend and fellow NASCAR driver Terry Labonte, the mood shifted again as they wrapped up discussions about a big, promising deal. Dale suddenly paused and muttered, "That's if I make it that far." Laughter filled the room. Everyone chalked it up to his famously dark sense of humor. But this time, Dale didn't laugh with them. He just sat there, distant and quiet. Even Dale Earnhardt Jr., his son and fellow competitor, sensed something unusual. On the morning of the race, his father, normally private and stoic, approached him, offering unexpected encouragement. "We're going to do this together," Dale said. 'Twas a rare and touching gesture, but one Junior would never forget. So, what mechanical flaws added fuel to the coming tragedy? Stay glued to find out as excitement built for the 2001 Daytona 500 at the Daytona International Speedway in Florida. A quieter, deadlier conversation was unfolding in NASCAR's inner circle, one that Dale Earnhardt wanted no part of. While fans packed the stands and millions tuned in at home, safety experts were scrambling behind the scenes, desperately trying to push a life-saving advancement onto the track. The concern: a terrifying injury called a basilar skull fracture. Within just 12 months leading up to February 18, 2001, three promising young drivers, Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin Jr., and Tony Roper, had lost their lives to this exact injury. The solution being offered was a new device called the Hans Head and Neck Support Device. Made from carbon fiber, the Hans was designed to stabilize a driver's head and neck, preventing the kind of violent whiplash that had already proved fatal. But Dale Earnhardt was having none of it. When reporters asked him if he'd consider wearing one, his answer was blunt and chilling: "I ain't wearing that damn noose." To Dale, the device felt restrictive and uncomfortable, a barrier between him and his driving instincts. Even when NASCAR held a special safety demonstration at Daytona, bringing in Dr. John Melvin, one of the nation's top safety experts, Dale didn't attend. Other drivers like Dale Jarrett and Bill Elliott sat just feet away from Earnhardt's garage stall, listening and getting fitted. But Dale stayed away. On race day, February 18th, out of 43 drivers on the grid, only 5 wore the Hans device. Among them was Kyle Petty, still mourning the tragic loss of his son Adam to the same type of injury that would tragically claim Dale just hours later. But what painful irony turned a race that seemed perfect into a haunting lesson on safety? Stay tuned to find out. February 18th, 2001. Had all the makings of a legendary day at Daytona International Speedway in Florida. The sun was shining, the stands were packed with nearly 150,000 excited fans. And the 2001 Daytona 500 had just begun under blue skies and high hopes. NASCAR's billion-dollar broadcasting deal with Fox Sports had kicked off, bringing the race into millions of homes across America. From the very start, the energy was electric. High up in race control, NASCAR President Mike Helton watched the unfolding drama with pride. Beside him sat NASCAR Chairman Bill France Jr., both men pleased with what they were seeing. Down on the track, Dale Earnhardt, known as the Intimidator, was in peak form. Throughout the race, Dale had surged to the front of the pack for separate times. Each time the crowd roared so loudly it almost drowned out the thunder of the engines. The competition was fierce, with 14 different drivers swapping the lead and more than 49 official lead changes recorded. This was shaping up to be one for the history books, but with just 25 laps to go, the race took a violent turn that few saw coming. Suddenly, chaos erupted along the backstretch. 20 cars, nearly half the field, were caught in a massive pileup. At the heart of the destruction was Tony Stewart's unmistakably bright orange car. At full speed, Stewart's vehicle smashed head-on into the concrete wall with terrifying force. His car bounced back into traffic, only to be struck again by 2 other vehicles. What followed was pure horror. Stewart's car flipped high into the air, landed on the hood of another car, and then rolled twice before finally stopping in the infield grass. From the stands and television screens, it looked like a crash no one could survive. The mangled wreckage barely looked like a car, but against all odds, Tony Stewart climbed out, shaken, bruised, but alive. When NASCAR officials later inspected the wreckage, they made a chilling discovery. Stewart's helmet had slammed so hard into the steering wheel during the impact that the metal was bent and dented. Over the team radio, Dale Earnhardt, watching it all unfold, called his friend and team owner, Richard Childress. His voice was serious, almost prophetic. "Richard, they're going to have to do something about these cars, or they're going to get somebody killed." No one knew how soon those words would come true. So, what terrifying twist during the final laps turned Dale's warning into a heartbreaking reality? Stay glued to find out. With just 20 laps remaining in the 2001 Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt found himself in a position unlike any he had faced in his 22 years of racing at Daytona International Speedway. Florida, known for his relentless drive to win and his no prisoners attitude on the track, Dale had always raced for one thing: victory. But on February 18, 2001, something shifted. For the first time in his legendary career, Dale wasn't racing for himself. He was racing to protect the people he cared about most. That day, Dale became a guardian on wheels. His mission was clear: help his longtime friend and driver, Michael Waltrip, and his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr., secure a first and second place finish. The sight was unforgettable. With Michael leading the race and Jr. in second, Dale's iconic black number 3 Chevrolet became a moving barrier, determined to block anyone daring enough to challenge them. What shocked everyone watching was what happened on lap 183. Dale had briefly taken the lead, something he was famous for defending with every ounce of his skill and grit. But this time, instead of fighting to stay in front, Dale lifted off the gas, allowing Waltrip to pass with Jr. close behind. For fans and commentators, it was almost unthinkable. Now running third, Dale unleashed a masterclass in defensive driving at speeds nearing 180 miles per hour. He swerved left and right across the track, closing every gap, shutting down every line of attack from behind. Sterling Marlin was the biggest threat, with Rusty Wallace charging low and Ken Schrader pushing high on the outside. But Dale's aggressive, fearless blocking left them all frustrated and stuck. For 17 tense laps, Dale drove like a man possessed. Every move was perfectly timed, but dangerously close to disaster. Commentators were in awe. The crowd held their breath. And inside their cars, both Waltrip and Jr. knew exactly who they had to thank for keeping the field at bay. As the white flag waved to signal the final lap, Waltrip and Jr. had pulled ahead, free from immediate danger. Dale's protective plan had worked almost too well, but in doing so, he had placed himself in the worst possible position on the track, right in the middle of chaos, waiting to unfold. But how did a few milliseconds of terror become a tragic chapter in Dale Earnhardt's story? Stay glued to your screen to find out. As the 2001 Daytona 500 entered its final heart-pounding moments on February 18th. The field of cars thundered through turns 1 and 2 for the very last time. Sterling Marlin, determined to make one last push for the lead, dove low on the track, hoping to slip beneath Dale Earnhardt's number 3 Chevrolet. Instinctively, Dale reacted. He dropped down, determined to block the move and protect the 2 cars ahead, his friend Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that split second. Something happened that would later be studied frame by frame by some of the best crash experts in the world. Even with all their advanced equipment and slow-motion technology, what they uncovered still sent chills down everyone's spine. Dale's car hadn't fully cleared the nose of Marlin's Dodge when he moved to block. The contact was light, just a slight tap, but it was enough. Dale's car suddenly veered left, sliding toward the flat apron at the bottom of the track. For a brief, almost hopeful moment, it looked like Dale might regain control. The nose of his car started to correct, pointing back toward the racing surface. But by then, the physics were beyond saving. His car shot back up the banking directly into the path of oncoming traffic. With the field running 3 wide behind him, there was no room for escape. Ken Schrader, running just behind Dale, had no time to react. Schrader's car slammed into the passenger side of Dale's number 3, sending both cars careening toward the outside wall at terrifying speed. In the television booth, Darrell Waltrip was shouting encouragement for his brother Michael, now seconds away from his first career victory. But out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of Dale's car spinning helplessly toward the wall. To the millions watching at home, it didn't look like anything more than a routine latrace. Crash is something fans had seen many times before, but this was no ordinary collision. Dale Earnhardt's car struck the concrete barrier at nearly 1 mph. The angle of impact was brutal, not head-on, but at a deadly diagonal that produced the worst kind of forces on a human body. In just 80 milliseconds, less than a tenth of a second, the car decelerated violently by over 40 miles per hour, with crash forces registering nearly 60 gigaseconds. The front corner of his Monte Carlo crumpled, flattening from aerodynamic curve to a smashed, wall-hugging slab. Inside, Dale's 184 lb body was thrown with catastrophic force to the right. The impact shattered his left lap belt, already worn and frayed, snapping it clean apart. His head struck with fatal force, and in that fraction of a second, NASCAR lost one of its greatest legends. So, who became the unexpected messenger of tragedy on that heartbreaking day? Stay tuned to uncover the shocking answer. After Dale Earnhardt's number 3. Chevrolet slid down the banking at Daytona International Speedway and came to rest in the infield grass on February 18, 2001. It didn't look like a life-threatening scene. The car wasn't in flames. It wasn't a mangled mess like Tony Stewart's earlier wreck that day. 2 fans watching from the stands and millions at home. It looked like just another crash, something the Intimidator would surely walk away from, as he had done countless times before. But Ken Schrader, the driver who had collided with Dale's car moments earlier, knew immediately that something was wrong. Schrader's own car had come to a stop nose two-door with Dale's, limping from his own violent impact. Schrader climbed out and did what any friend would do. He rushed straight to Dale's window. What he saw inside that car, however, would haunt him forever. To this day, more than 2 decades later, Schrader has never publicly described exactly what he witnessed. The only words he's ever shared about that moment are simple but chilling. "I just knew that it wasn't good." Instead of giving a wave or a thumbs up, the normal signal from drivers after a crash, Schrader began waving frantically at the safety crews racing toward them. His desperate gestures became the first public sign that Dale was in serious trouble. Dr. Steve Bohannon, who had been Daytona's chief emergency doctor for just over a year, was among the first medical personnel to reach the scene. In all his experience treating crash victims, Bohannon knew the signs to fear. A tale showed them all. There was blood from his nose and ears, a silent airway, and most alarming of all, Dale was unconscious and not even trying to breathe. Without hesitation, the medical team cut the roof off Dale's car and began resuscitation efforts right there, on the track. Despite knowing the odds were near zero, they fought to bring him back. Years later, Dr. Bohannon admitted, "When you have no signs of life after that kind of blunt trauma, the chance of survival is almost zero, but we still try." Meanwhile, just a few hundred yards away, Michael Waltrip stood in victory lane, celebrating his long-awaited first NASCAR win. He had no idea what was happening just beyond the track. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who had finished second, wasn't celebrating. Something felt wrong. As he ran toward the infield care center, he locked eyes with Ken Schrader, who was being treated behind a privacy curtain. One look at Schrader's face, and Jr. knew he needed to get to the hospital fast. Now, how did a horrifying discovery after the crash reveal the true extent of Dale Earnhardt's injuries? Don't miss this part. Just a mile and a half from Daytona International Speedway sits Halifax Medical Center, the place where Dale Earnhardt's final fight for life took place on February 18, 2001. As soon as Dale arrived, Dr. Steve Bohannon and his trauma team of nearly 15 medical professionals launched into action. They worked with intense urgency, trying to reinflate his collapsed lungs, performing emergency chest x-rays and pumping blood into his body in a desperate attempt to reverse the damage. In the middle of this high-pressure chaos, something deeply human unfolded. Dr. Bohannon noticed a silent figure standing against the back wall of the trauma room. It was Teresa Earnhardt, Dale's wife. Unlike many family members in similar situations, she didn't interrupt or ask questions. She stood quietly, composed, and heartbreakingly still, watching as the medical team worked on the man she loved. Dale Earnhardt Jr. also arrived at the hospital, but the moment he peered into the trauma room, he understood the truth without needing words. The doctor's body language said it all. Years later, Jr. described it clearly. "We knew it right away. I saw J.R. Rhodes and just ran to him. It was this noise coming out of me, a sound I can't describe, with sorrow, fear, and complete shock." Then came one of the most unforgettable moments of that day, as a hospital technician began preparing Dale's body, he moved to remove Dale's wedding ring. From the back of the room, Teresa spoke just one word: no. The technician froze, unsure. Dr. Bohannon's instruction was simple but final: do what she says. Now that moment stayed with Bohannon for life. Later, NASCAR's official accident report revealed the grim truth. Dale Earnhardt had suffered multiple injuries: broken ribs, a fractured sternum, and a broken ankle. But the fatal injury was a basilar skull fracturing injury that shattered every bone where the base of the skull meets the spine. Perhaps most haunting of all was the evidence found inside the car afterward. Bloodstains covered nearly every surface inside Dale's cockpit. A chilling reminder that the crash lasted less than 1 second, but its damage was catastrophic. But what do you think was the most shocking part of Dale Earnhardt's story? Sway to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.